Imagine a war fought not just on battlefields, but within the heart of vast industrial complexes. Deep inside its territory, Russia relied on these massive facilities as strategic strongholds, powerhouses fueling its military machine, supplying fuel for missiles, raw materials for ammunition. President Putin believed these industrial bastions, far behind front lines, were untouchable. Yet, on December 11, that illusion shattered completely. Take a moment to absorb these images. At first glance, the flames are terrifying, but what truly catches your eye is the ominous, blood-red sky glowing overhead. Explosions erupt from the PJSC Akron chemical plant like a city ablaze, not just an industrial site, but as if the entire skyline is unraveling in chaos. The footage is raw, shaking camera, chaotic angles, shot by someone terrified, trembling with fear. The silence is broken by a drone's ominous hum, but the most haunting sound is a voice in the background, frantic, trembling, desperately suppressing panic. Now, let's shift our gaze hundreds of kilometers away. That same night, the Doroga Blue thermal power plant in the Smolensk region was struck by Ukrainian drones. The 90-megawatt giant that powers countless homes and factories was suddenly plunged into darkness, enveloped in chaos. Why would Ukraine launch such a coordinated, devastating assault on December 11? The answer? Revenge. The story begins a day earlier, with Ukraine's critical infrastructure under relentless attack. Odessa's key facilities burn, while in the Poltava region, Russian ballistic missiles shake the ground near Kremlin-Chuk. Moscow's lights flicker, an indication that Russia's strategic defenses are faltering. Russia aimed to freeze Ukraine in its tracks and shroud the country in darkness. But Ukraine's retaliation came quickly, like a boomerang, striking back with precise force, unleashing chaos in the enemy's own backyard. What was the goal behind these strikes? Was it mere sabotage, or something much darker, a calculated move to cripple Russia's military logistics? The destruction of the chemical plant reveals an entirely new level of strategic attack. The facility, often dismissed as civilian, produces ammonium nitrate used both in fertilizers and military explosives. This single strike isn't just about economic damage, it's a direct blow to Russia's war effort. Ammonium nitrate is a vital ingredient for military explosives. Destroying this plant hampers ammunition production at a time when Russian forces desperately need it. Without raw materials, the front lines could stall, firepower diminishing, supplies drying up. Look at the official statement from the Novgorod governor. All units on high alert, but his trembling voice betrays the truth: there's panic, not confidence. If everything was truly under control, why ask civilians to stay calm? The flames and buzzing drones, they're witnesses to Ukraine's strategic victory. Across the airwaves, reports flood in. Over 287 unmanned aerial vehicles shot down across more than 8 regions. Even Moscow's mayor confirms that dozens of drones heading for the city are intercepted. The scale of the attack reveals a fragile defense system, painfully exposed despite years of buildup. The targeting of key infrastructure shows the cracks in Putin's strategic armor. Power plants fall silent, streets plunge into darkness. The consequences ripple far beyond military setbacks: hospitals, life support systems, communication networks, all vulnerable to a single strike. Power outages mean chaos. Emergency services struggle, the urban landscape halts. Gas stations go dark, traffic lights stop blinking. Travelers are stranded, food supplies become scarce. This isn't just an attack on infrastructure, it's an assault on daily life, creating panic, fueling unrest within Putin's own nation. And what of the civilians? As the bitter cold winter grips their homes, they realize the war has come home: no warmth, no light. They see their leader's promises crumble, the very safety he vows to protect now at risk. The flames consume more than factories, they threaten their hope, their future. But beneath the smoldering ruins lies an even deeper truth, one that Putin cannot hide. The factory in Veliki Novgorod, once considered too vital to attack, has been struck at its core. It's not just a fertilizer plant, it's a crucial artery in Russia's military and economic supply chain. The Akron facility, born out of Soviet industrial dreams, now supplies over 8 million tons of fertilizer annually. It's a global player, exporting beyond borders, yet also the secret backbone of Russia's military explosives. The ammonium nitrate produced there isn't just fertilizer, it's the very essence of destruction on the front lines. With this strike, Ukraine has dealt a blow that reverberates through Russia's entire military apparatus.
Ammunition production halts, stocks diminish, and resupply efforts stumble. The explosion triggers a chain reaction, exposing vulnerabilities that threaten to cripple Putin's long-term warfare strategy.
Beyond the battlefield, the effects are felt domestically. Fertilizer shortages threaten Ukraine's grain harvests, lower yields, rising food prices, and increasing hardship. Panic spreads as the country's food security hangs in the balance. Putin's attempt to wield grain as a weapon now backfires, destroying his own supply chains.
Meanwhile, the logistics network that sustains Russia's vast industrial complex is crippled. The company's own railway fleet, vital for transporting raw materials and finished products, is paralyzed. Railcars are stranded, bottlenecking entire sectors, another devastating blow to an already strained economy. This isn't just a series of tactical victories. It's a strategic checkmate, an audacious move that threatens Russia's political, military, and economic foundations. All unfolding amidst whispers of a fragile peace deal, hanging by a thread. Every flame, every drone, reveals a chilling truth. As the smoke rises, so does the realization, the war is no longer confined to front lines. It's tearing through the core of the nation itself, reshaping the very fabric of power and destruction. Just one day earlier, the tiny sparks of hope flickered in Ukraine's skies. To the west, critical infrastructure in Odessa was engulfed in flames, smoke rising like dark clouds against the cold winter wind. Simultaneously, in the Poltava region, the city of Kremenchuk quivered as Russian ballistic missiles shattered silence, exploding in the night air like distant thunder. Russia's plan was clear: freeze Ukraine into submission, plunging cities into utter darkness. But Ukraine's fierce and unexpected retaliation turned the tables, like a boomerang slicing through silence. Power grids failed, the skies roared with drone swarms. Despite vast anti-air defenses, key targets still fell. The strategy was unraveling before Russian eyes, highlighting a bitter truth: Putin's fortress of false security was crumbling. The attack on that cold, foreboding night marked a turning point, proof that even Russia's strongest defenses couldn't hold the storm coming from the east. Then, the shockwaves shifted focus to Veliki Novgorod. Imagine the horrifying scene: flames licking the sky, sending a deep, ominous red glow that made the night seem alive with menace. But it wasn't just about the towering inferno, it was about the secret beneath the flames. The chemical tanks at the PJSC Akron chemical plant had detonated. Not a random accident, but a precise surgical strike targeting one of Russia's most crucial military logistics hubs. What does that mean? Putin's propaganda claims these facilities are civilian only, but facts tell a different story. The ammonium nitrate, a white crystalline substance, is the backbone of fertilizer. Yet, it's also a deadly component in explosives, military-grade weapons Russia depends on. Strike this plant, and the entire chain of ammunition production begins to fray. Russia's armies already face shortages, fuel for war dwindling, shells scarcer with every passing day. Ukraine's act of retaliation isn't just sabotage, it's a heavy blow that challenges Russia's ability to sustain its conflicts. Now, look closer at the desperate, trembling voice of Novgorod's governor. His words try to soothe the chaos: all units are on high alert. Please stay calm. But beneath the surface lies panic, hidden behind careful words. Why urge calm when the city watched the flames swallow the night, the drones hum echoing above civilian neighborhoods? Why hide the truth? Because the reality is stark: air defenses are inadequate. The smoke from that blazing factory clouds the sky, darkening Putin's claims of victory with every passing second. Meanwhile, the global pressure mounts. Reports detail at least 287 unmanned aerial vehicles shot down across Russia's territories. Even Moscow's mayor admits to destroying 32 drones heading towards the capital. The numbers reveal the magnitude of the assault: an invisible storm that no air defense system can fully contain. The very backbone of Russia's air shielding is faltering, proof of a strategic collapse. How much longer can Putin pretend victory is near? The next strike was no less devastating: a thermal power plant in the Smolensk region, suddenly plunged into darkness. This wasn't just about cutting power, it was about paralyzing an entire region. In an instant, hospitals faced life-threatening crisis: life support units lost power, surgeries halted, incubators flickered into silence. The pain was visible, small sparks turning into a raging fire that risked civilian lives. Losing this power source was a blow not only to daily life but to the lifeblood of the economy. Without electricity, industries grind to a halt, factories shut down, supplies delay, costs skyrocket. The cold air becomes even more unbearable for citizens, their homes freezing as the war's brutality seeps into everyday life. Power outages disrupt communication, swallowing information in darkness and chaos. Rumors spread like wildfire, panic, fear, uncertainty. And all this unfolded in the heart of winter when warmth and light are life itself. Putin's strategy backfires, blunting his promises of victory. The energy attack exposes the fragile weave of his plans, his own people's comfort, his military supply lines slipping away. The grim truth emerges: his war isn't just about territory, it's about control. Control over resources, over the lives of his citizens, over the future of his rule. At the core lies the mighty Akron plant, more than just a factory, a pillar of Russia's strategic might. Since the Soviet era, it's been a vital node producing fertilizers and explosives, fueling agriculture and armor alike. When it blazed in the night, it wasn't merely destruction, it was an attack on Russia's very backbone. This massive industrial complex exports billions of dollars worth of fertilizers, supplies essential to Russia's agriculture, its breadbasket. But beneath the surface, the plant's secret weapon lies in ammonium nitrate, used both for cultivating crops and fueling explosives. In the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon of destruction. The damage to this facility threatens to cripple Russia's entire supply of military explosives, firing artillery shells, making war possible. Without this raw material, the mighty Russian military's firepower begins to fade. This isn't just about a factory, it's a strategic chokehold. The shutdown of Akron's production triggers a domino effect, cutting off supplies, paralyzing logistics, and choking Russia's capacity to fight and feed itself. Its railway network, relied upon for weeks, crumbles under the strike. Trains sit idling, crucial supplies are stuck in transit, an invisible wound draining the country's strength. Suddenly, the war feels different. Not a distant conflict, but a devastating crisis hitting home. It's the clash of ambitions and vulnerabilities colliding in the heart of winter's cold grip. A calculated strike that has stirred the very foundation of Russia's military and economy, exposing cracks in the seemingly invincible armor. Each explosion, each blackout, each broken supply chain tells a story, one of a nation under siege from within, as its own power is turned against it. As the smoke clears and night falls again, one question remains: how much longer can Vladimir Putin hide the truth behind his grand illusions of victory? The people of Russia are paying a heavy price for this ongoing war, but not on the battlefield, at home. As winter tightens its grip, the bitter cold becomes a weapon. Citizens shiver in their own houses, their heating and power supplies cut off. The same terror tactics used in Ukraine are now turning inward, haunting those who thought they were safe. What hope does a nation have when its own infrastructure is turned into a battlefield? When the blast rocks the chemical plant in Veliki Novgorod, it's more than just an industrial disaster, it's a brutal message. The flames cast an ominous red glow across the sky, turning the night into a nightmarish canvas of destruction. The air thickens with the scent of burning chemicals, and the ground vibrates with the shockwaves of explosions. Among the chaos, a frightened voice trembles with panic, trying to mask the terror, yet the trembling reveals all. The entire region is plunged into darkness, utility lines severed, and the hum of civilization silenced. But how far-reaching is this strike? Moments later, the silence breaks again. In the Smolensk region, the powerful thermal energy plant also becomes a target. The drone overhead hums menacingly, a stark reminder that no place is truly safe. This 90-megawatt energy hub is the lifeblood of industry and homes. Its destruction plunges entire communities into chaos. Medical facilities lose power, life-saving equipment stalls, and the delicate balance of urban life collapses. When power fails, panic spreads just as fast as the darkness. Why would Ukraine strike such critical targets? Revenge fuels the fire. Just days earlier, Ukrainian cities suffered attacks on vital infrastructure, fire lit in Odessa, missiles pounding the Poltava region. This was no random assault, it was a calculated retaliation. Each strike is designed to deliver a message, to weaken Russia's war machine and cut off its supplies. The destruction of Veliki Novgorod's chemical complex isn't just an attack on industry, it's a surgical blow to Russia's military logistics. This facility, known as PJSC Akron, is a key node in Russia's strategic framework. Since its origins in the Soviet era, it transformed from a simple fertilizer factory into a military-industrial powerhouse. Today, it exports fertilizers worldwide and produces the crucial component for explosives, ammonium nitrate. These crystals symbolize growth and life for farmers, but in the military context? They're deadly materials fueling artillery shells and explosives. Its destruction threatens the entire supply chain of Russia's ammunition, an unforgivable wound in its war effort. By targeting Akron, Ukraine doesn't just strike a factory, it strikes the very heart of Russia's war capabilities. The shutdown halts the production of millions of tons of fertilizer, risking food shortages and economic collapse in the black soil regions. Simultaneously, it cripples the ammunition pipeline, drastically reducing Russia's firepower at the front. The chain reaction is devastating: resupply delays, exhausted stocks, and a diminished battlefield advantage. Meanwhile, the Russian government's officials scramble publicly for calm. But their trembling voices reveal the truth: everything is spiraling out of control. The attack on the power plant in Smolensk deepens this chaos. As electricity flickers and dies, hospitals, factories, and homes stand immobilized. The civil damage is catastrophic. Power outages in the dead of winter threaten lives in hospitals. The icy air seeps through broken windows, the warmth from lives depends on fragile generators struggling with limited fuel. As communication lines fall silent, citizens are left in the dark, literally and figuratively, unable to distinguish truth from propaganda. The nation's digital backbone is fraying, and the country's stability begins to crack. All of this unfolds amid a crowning irony: just as Russia claims to dominate on the battlefield, its internal infrastructure crumbles. The same fire that rages in Ukraine now threatens its own people. Putin's ambitions come at a steep cost: his army's supplies dwindle, and civilian suffering soars. Yet, the question remains: what does Putin truly aim to achieve? Is it victory, or simply a desperate attempt to hold power at any cost? In the smoldering ruins of Veliki Novgorod's chemical plant, the deeper truth lies hidden. This isn't just a factory, it's a symbol of Russia's control over strategic resources. The shutdown of Akron signifies a fracture in the country's technological and military dominance. The consequences ripple beyond the battlefield, threatening food security, civilian safety, and national stability. As the flames die down, one thing becomes painfully clear: the true enemy isn't only on the front lines, it's within the vulnerable core of a nation caught in its own destructive ambitions. Ukrainian forces targeted one of the most vital industrial hubs in Russia, an act that could reshape the entire battlefield. This facility, renowned for producing ammonium nitrate, is a key component in both agriculture and military weaponry. This white crystal substance, symbolizing life in fields and death in warfare, now faces sudden destruction. The blast at this plant isn't just an accident, it's a calculated strike designed to cripple Russia's supply chain. With the icing on the cake, an attack that halts the production of millions of artillery shells, Russia's military machine is left exposed. Imagine the front lines: without steady access to gunpowder or shells, their artillery loses its edge. Resupply slows, then stops altogether, unraveling decades of strategic planning. But the chaos doesn't end there. This plant fuels Russia's agricultural heartland, the black soil region, the nation's breadbasket. Now, its fertilizer supply is cut off, risking a catastrophic drop in crop yields. Fewer fields flourish, fewer grains are harvested, and food prices surge as shortages loom. A nation that once wielded grain as a weapon now faces the bitter fruit of its own tactics. On the home front, this blow ignites civil unrest. As food becomes scarcer and prices soar, public anxiety intensifies. Gas prices spike, transportation halts, and everyday life plunges into chaos. Power outages stretch across cities, hospitals tremble without electricity, and panic intensifies with every passing hour. The nation's infrastructure, quantum and scale, buckles under the weight of this destructive blow. This isn't purely an economic setback, it's a strategic chokehold. The plant's own rail fleet, a sprawling network of thousands of wagons, is integral to moving raw materials and finished products. Now, with the strike, the entire logistics chain threatens to collapse. Stuck railcars, jammed loading docks, and halted shipments create a domino effect that reverberates through entire industries. All these events, attacks on critical infrastructure, disruption of food and energy supplies, highlight a terrifying reality. Russia's carefully crafted military doctrine, built on resupply and industrial strength, begins to crumble before our eyes. This coordinated assault is no mere sabotage, it's a relentless push towards strategic collapse, a move that threatens to topple the very foundation of Russia's war effort.
What comes next will determine whether this blow signals a breakthrough or ignites a broader crisis that could accelerate the unraveling of a once dominant power. The recent coordinated strikes on critical Russian facilities go far beyond mere sabotage. They are a masterstroke, a strategic move designed to dismantle Russia's military and political backbone. While whispers of peace negotiations circulate, these attacks strip away Moscow's strongest leverage, leaving it vulnerable and exposed. Ukraine is not just fighting in the trenches, they are rewriting the game on the diplomatic chessboard. With a carefully crafted 20-point counter-proposal, Kyiv is signaling its intent to take control of its future. Instead of waiting for external powers to dictate terms, Ukraine demands a voice insistent, unwavering. This diplomatic stance is no accident. It's a clear message: we are partners, not supplicants. Our sovereignty cannot be compromised. The move shakes the very foundation of the current alliance system. Europeans scramble to hold their positions, balancing between strategic autonomy and allegiance. Germany shifts, boosting aid and rearming. France balances independence with NATO's demands. Britain, ever assertive, seeks to strengthen its global influence. These differing visions reveal a landscape in flux. Each nation's strategy aligns, yet underlying tensions threaten unity. Meanwhile, Russia's internal stability hinges on its ability to sustain its war effort. The destruction of key military and industrial centers pushes Moscow into uncharted territory. The collapse of supply chains, the paralysis of essential industries, these are not isolated incidents. They are a wake-up call. The backbone of Russian military logistics is crumbling right before eyes. If railway networks falter, entire sectors grind to a halt. Trucks, trains, and factories frozen in place. The domino effect spreads wider than ever imagined. The economic heartbeat of regions vital to Russia's war effort is now under threat. Imagine the deafening silence that follows these blasts. The smell of burning chemicals, thick and acrid, fills the air long after the explosions. Cold steel, smeared with soot, caked with dust, witnesses how fragile this so-called fortress of resilience truly is. How long can this fragile system sustain the strain? The stakes are sky-high. Power outages ripple through cities, hospitals, emergency services, homes plunged into darkness. The subtle hum of generators battling to keep life support systems alive. The stifling tension as communications go dead, every missed message, every frozen transaction, fueling chaos and panic. In the midst of winter's chill, ordinary lives endure bitter hardship. As the lights go out, families huddle in darkness, wondering how long this nightmare will last. The conflict, once confined to distant fields, now infiltrates the very hearts of Russian homes. If these attacks continue, what will be left of Putin's once formidable strategy? How much longer can an empire sustain such relentless blows, loss after loss? With each strike on critical infrastructure, Moscow's grip weakens. The promise of victory fades into smoke and dust. Sometimes, the only thing left to question is, how much more can this nation endure before it cracks apart? The border between NATO and Russia now runs across Eastern Europe and the Baltic states, creating one of the world's most unstable flashpoints. Ukraine's future depends heavily on Europe's overall security stance. The alliance's leader has emphasized two opposing goals: support for Ukraine's defense and avoiding direct confrontation with Russia, a nation armed with nuclear weapons. This delicate balancing act influences every diplomatic move. A peace agreement that leaves Ukraine vulnerable might inspire Moscow to act more aggressively. Conversely, if Russia perceives the peace as a strategic defeat, it could push for further conflict down the line. The challenge lies in navigating this razor's edge, where missteps could ignite full-scale war again. Drone warfare complicates efforts toward a ceasefire. Unlike traditional battles, drones are cheap, quick to deploy, and hard to trace. Even with peace negotiations underway, small acts of sabotage, misattributed attacks, or provocations could escalate tensions again. Ensuring accurate verification becomes critical. International monitoring, shared intelligence, and clear rules of engagement are essential. Yet, these technical issues often go unnoticed, despite their importance. A failure here could jeopardize any peace certainty. Public opinion in Ukraine remains resolute, most oppose surrendering occupied territory, viewing prolonged conflict as necessary for sovereignty. This unity bolsters President Zelensky's bargaining power at the negotiating table. From Moscow's standpoint, peace talks are intertwined with regime stability and elite interests. A deal that favors Russia could threaten the current leadership's position. But the real twist? Behind these strategic calculations lie human fears. Families living in constant fear of renewed violence, lives forever changed by the echo of explosions and the chilling drone buzz in the night. Will diplomacy prevail, or will the unresolved shadows of war keep threatening to ignite anew? The resilience of the people and the fierce determination of Ukraine's leaders are shining through. Despite the relentless toll, the nation's unwavering spirit fuels hopes for peace. But behind this courage lies a brutal reality. The battles are fought not just in the city streets, but within the very fabric of the country's future. When the surge of hope clashes with suppression, the stakes become unbearable. Is the cry for peace just a fragile whisper? Or will it rise like a thunderstorm, sweeping away the darkness? The echoes of destruction threaten to drown out the possibility of reconciliation. Yet, the true battle is not only fought on the front lines but inside the minds and hearts of those who long for normal life. Every explosion, every drone passing overhead, reminds us, hope flickers faintly amid chaos. The question is, can diplomacy unravel the tangled web of hatred and revenge? Or will brutal cycles of attack and retaliation spiral out of control until nothing remains? As winter's cold grip tightens, the world watches with bated breath. The challenge is clear: how to bring lasting peace without rewarding aggression, how to secure a future when so much has already been lost. Amidst destruction, a fragile spark of hope persists. But is this enough to forge a new dawn? Or will the flames of conflict consume everything? The answer lies in a hidden place, beyond the reach of strife, inside the hearts of those seeking a different path. A path that leads to resolution, or a descent into chaos. The world waits. The clock ticks. And all eyes are on the fragile thread hanging between war and peace, an uncertain future that could change everything. Will this delicate balance hold? Or will the flames ignite anew, unleashing chaos none can control? The moment of truth is approaching, and only time will tell if hope can survive the storm. The recent strikes against critical infrastructure reveal a disturbing truth: even the most fortified defenses are crumbling. Russian air defense systems, once deemed invincible, are exposed as powerless against relentless attacks. The targeting of power plants and essential facilities exposes a paradox: despite full military might, Russia's strategic shield is collapsing. In the aftermath of the explosion at the Veliki Novgorod power plant and the missile strikes on the Smolensk thermal station, it becomes painfully clear: this isn't just about cutting off electricity. It's about attacking the very heartbeat of Russia's industrial and civilian life. Imagine the silent hum of machines plunging into darkness, hospitals losing crucial power for life-saving equipment, the smell of burning fuel lingering in the air, cold corridors echoing with the frantic beeping of malfunctioning devices. What does this mean? When electricity vanishes, chaos reigns. Critical services, hospitals, intensive care units, dialysis operations are thrown into disarray. Fuel supplies dwindle, and generators groan under the rising burden. The lights go out mid-surgery and incubators halt, risking lives already fragile. No power means no internet, no news, no updates, just the oppressive silence that spreads panic among millions. Communications disappear, ATM screens turn dark, and cash becomes king amid the rising tide of uncertainty. Cities grind to a halt, electric trains stop running, traffic lights flicker out, gas stations lose their pumps. The entire economy, already struggling beneath Putin's rule, faces new obstacles. Factories halt, supplies chain break, costs soar. This winter's cold bites deeper because the attacks target heating and electricity, offering no respite, only hardship. This assault isn't just a tactic, it's a calculated blow to the civilian backbone of Russian society. And as the power grids falter, the question intensifies: how long can they survive when their homes grow colder, and their very survival hangs by a thread? This is more than an infrastructural failure. It's an open acknowledgement that even Russia's most formidable defenses are faltering. As the flames glow brighter and more facilities fall silent, a stark truth emerges: no country, however powerful, is invulnerable when its core sectors are targeted. Soon, the entire nation will confront the reality: their survival depends on fragile wires and fleeting sparks. But the most shocking revelation remains hidden for now. Behind the scenes, corridors of power tremble as the true cost of these strikes is being calculated. With critical supplies drying up and chaos spreading, what will be the next move in a war where the battleground isn't just the front lines, but the very infrastructure holding a nation together?
The answer could change everything. The recent strikes reveal a troubling weakness in Russia's defenses. Despite deploying all their advanced systems, they couldn't prevent the attack on vital infrastructure. The targeting of key power facilities exposes the fragility of Putin's strategic shield. As the flames consumed the power plant in Smolensk, a terrifying reality emerged. Even in times of peace, their defenses are faltering. Imagine the deafening crackle of explosions, followed by a sinister silence. The 90-megawatt power plant, vital for both industry and homes, suddenly collapses into darkness. What happens when a city's lifeblood gets cut off? Hospitals lose power mid-operation, critical care units tremble on the brink of chaos. Dialysis machines stop, life-saving treatments halt, and the air thickens with dread. Even backup generators struggle with limited fuel and ominous whisper of vulnerability. The silence that follows is deafening.
No internet, no communication, no news, only whispers of panic spreading like wildfire.
Traffic lights vanish, trains stop, trade stalls, chaos erupts in the streets.
People scramble to reach stores, to call loved ones, but their world has frozen. The economy, already fragile, faces an even steeper descent. Factories come to a halt, costs surge, and the winter's cold seeps into cracks not just of buildings but of trust. This assault isn't just about power outages. It's a calculated strike against the very fabric of civilian life. With every flickering light, the war reaches deeper into homes, bringing its harsh toll to innocent lives. As Putin's forces wage this energy war against their own people, the question remains, how much longer can they hide the cracks in their so-called impregnable defenses? The answer may lie in the darkness now spreading across their own cities, an ominous sign of vulnerability no one expected.